Hello, welcome to my talk and welcome to my channel. I have a YouTube channel, as you can see. My name is Joseph Mbele. I am from Tanzania. I'm a Tanzanian. I teach at St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota, and I've been here in the English department since 1991. Before that, I was teaching at the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. I always like to introduce myself that way. I know some people are coming to this channel for the first time. In addition to teaching literature from around the world, I also teach folklore. I'm also a cultural consultant. I help Africans and Americans to navigate cultural differences. I offer presentations to different audiences, schools, non-profits, companies, and so on, individuals. I've also published two books. One is called Africans and Americans, Embracing Cultural Differences, and another one, a sequel, is called Chickens in the Bus, More Thoughts on Cultural Differences. I have them here. This is one, this is the other one. Africans and Americans, Embracing Cultural Differences, Chickens in the Bus, More Thoughts on Cultural Differences. These are my main tools in the consultancy work that I'm doing, and there are a lot of people who have read these books, Americans and Africans and others from different parts of the world, Europe, places like the UK and Germany, Sweden, places like that. Today I would like to address very briefly an issue that's really cropping up now, and that is institutions, companies backing away from what's called diversity, equity, and inclusion here in the USA. For some years, there has been a big movement to introduce, programs that satisfy the requirements of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a big topic, complicated. The way diversity is defined, it already suggests it's a very complicated topic. People talk about racial diversity, gender diversity, age, religion, disabilities. That's what people say here in the USA. So it's really a whole bunch of things. Some other people might say, we need also to consider viewpoint diversity, yes. And I like personally to consider or to focus on cultural diversity. Yeah, for me, cultural diversity is primary. And I think if you take Americans, for example, I talk about them as Americans. And what I have in mind, now that we are talking about diversity is that no matter who they are, men, women, black, white, whatever, despite differences they may have, gender, sexual orientation, as the Americans say, my view is as long as they are Americans, they are Americans, and I treat them as such. I talk about them as one people. I've often been asked by African Americans when I tell them that I've written a book about Africans and Americans embracing cultural differences. They ask, "Oh, do you mean white Americans?" And I tell them, "No, I just mean Americans. And you need to read the book to see my point." The point is they do have a lot in common that defines them as Americans. That's my view. And Americans who have traveled outside of the USA, once they go outside to other countries, that's when they discover they are American. It doesn't matter whether they are black American or white American or men or women. That's why I just focus more on cultural diversity. Because I'm looking at the whole world with globalization. I'm thinking, it's really the cultural dimension that counts. So you have Chinese people, you have Germans, you have Africans, you have Americans. So I deal with those kinds of categorizations. So the concept of diversity itself is highly complex and perhaps problematic. It's a huge list of things. And once you face such a huge list of things, it's even hard to know how you can establish policies. But I hear again and again people saying the ideal is to increase diversity in institutions, in organizations, in leadership positions, in boards, in the workplace. They talk about increasing diversity as a big, goal, that people should be pursuing, and that it's a great idea to have people of diverse backgrounds and races and beliefs, genders, whatever. I have my own doubts about, this. And it's a complicated story because I think where people are of one culture, they will have problems, yes, like all human communities. But once you bring, diversity, you are really compounding the problems. For example, if you have a board, of a company made up of only men, yes, they can have problems. They will have problems. And I'm saying the moment you bring in women, the problems, multiply. Because now, you have to deal with problems stemming from those gender differences. And then you bring people from, another part of the world, into a place, say, like America, you compound the problems again. So what you need is not just to increase diversity, that's my point. What you need is to really have a process of education so everybody can understand everybody. And I do a lot of work in that area. One of my popular talks that I've given 2 times now is called My Culture is Weird and So Is Yours. I've given that talk twice here at Central of College, and in a few days I'll be giving the talk in a city called Maple Grove. So those are a few remarks about the diversity part. There's then equity, and then there's inclusion. These are goals that are articulated in a place like the USA. These are goals that people seek to achieve. And I think they are very important goals. But there are many challenges along the way. And I think people need time to accomplish these goals. They should give themselves plenty of time. They should take steps, but not have illusions about how quickly, how effectively they can achieve those goals. So institutions in the USA, and I like to talk about the USA because I know it, companies, organizations, as they pursue these goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they have people, officers, that spearhead these processes or that spearhead these missions in the different organizations. There was a time not long ago when I began to read about diversity fatigue. These officers in the various institutions, organizations, were saying and complaining that they were not able to do their work properly. They did not have enough support. They had too much work to do, and so there was a problem of burnout. Some were giving up. It's a big topic. I have a video that I made. I think it's called Diversity Fatigue. I'll have a link beneath this video where you can listen to my thoughts about diversity fatigue. So already there were signs, great signs, that the whole business of diversity, equity, inclusion was hitting some obstacles. And now there is this issue now of companies, reacting against what they were trying to do. There's a backlash. This is truly concerning, as people say. There is now a backlash, and people are worried. I've been reading reports about this. Major companies pushing back on the programs of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This ties up with some other issues like affirmative action, and I had my own thoughts about affirmative action. Maybe I should make another video. I should record another video about affirmative action, the way it's implemented, the way it's understood. There are aspects of it that I don't accept. I insist, for example, that when it comes to hiring, the only criterion applied should be competence. The only criterion should be competence. People should be hired on the basis of competence for the task that they have to perform. Now, in this country, in the USA, there is an issue that people have not had equal opportunities to prepare. For example, they didn't have equal opportunities for education, and definitely that is true. So in my view, what needs to be done is to make sure that the educational system is fair, that resources should be available to all the kids, so that there should be equality at that level. All kids should have equal opportunities. The schools should be well funded, well staffed. Teachers should be well paid, well motivated. It means, therefore, to get those people who are disadvantaged to the point where they can compete fairly. It will take some time, but the effort has to be done. Serious effort should be made to make all the schools be top class. But as far as the hiring goes, in the meantime, it should go to the most competent candidates. Again, in the US, unfortunately, even the hiring, has been flawed much of the time, or some of the time. Yeah, there's been, favoritism, based on race, maybe some other factors. So that should be abolished. So I have those kinds of views about affirmative action. And so these things are inseparable. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and affirmative action. And now there is a backlash. I'm still studying this. I'm very intrigued. And I'm very keen to study what's going on and why and how it's going to end. But one of the issues I've noted here in the USA is there has been a tendency for organizations, institutions to respond to events and put in place, these programs. For example, the diversity, equity, inclusion gained a lot of momentum after the killing of George Floyd here in Minneapolis several years ago. That galvanized the country and made, organizations and companies and colleges want to do something about historic injustices, racial disparities and things like that. So there was a boom, in hiring and in instituting programs of diversity, equity, inclusion. But again, maybe this was not the right way to respond to the problem, that was, there for everybody to see. So maybe more thought should have been put into, the decisions, and then careful planning, regarding what actually needed to be done and what could be done and what could be sustainable. Sustainability is what's needed. And I don't have the answers. I absolutely don't have the answers. As I say, I'm just intrigued, I'm curious, and I'm keen to learn. But I just wanted to say there's now this big deal. There's now this big thing of institutions, companies, bulking away from diversity, equity, and inclusion. It sounds like a sad development, but we will see. When I've learned a bit more about it, I'll definitely come and give a talk. I'll record a video. I always do that. That's it for today. Have a nice day.